Jersey Jack Pinball versus Stern Pinball. Who's the winner? It's our topic for today. I'm Jim Cardona from Cardona Pinball Designs here at the Delaware Pinball Collective. Got a bunch of games behind me that are all donated by various members, and they have over 50 games here. It's a really cool place to play, and we get a lot of new games here. We have a lot of Jersey Jack games. We have a lot of Stern games that come through here, and so it's pretty good because I get to play all the newest stuff pretty much all the time, among other manufacturers as well. But today I wanted to focus on Stern and Jersey Jack, and there's always this comparison when these new machines come out, especially when multiple new ones come out at the same time, like what's happened this year. Is people want to compare and say, well, is this one better? Is that one better? Which everybody's competing for the same dollar, even though they're making different titles. There's some level of competition there because the consumer only has a limited amount of money, right? There's a finite amount of money to go around. So I guess what I wanted to do was talk about both of these companies' business models, at least my opinion of what their business model is, and then that would kind of give you a feel for which one is better in which situation. So the first one I'll cover is Jersey Jack, and Jersey Jack is a newer company, but they've made 9 different machines now. They've been around for a little over 10 years, so I wouldn't say that they're new. They're probably the second biggest in the world after Stern. Stern's been around a lot longer. They have a lot more machines out for a long time there. They were the only game in town. So Jersey Jack, when they first came out, it seemed like they weren't really targeting the same market segment that Stern was. Again, everybody's competing for the same dollar, but if you're every business, big business, has what they call a mission statement or a vision, and I don't know what the mission statement or vision is of these two companies, but based on what they do, you can pretty much guess, right? So what Jersey Jack does is they try to make the best pinball machine that they can make, regardless of what it's going to cost to make. And on the other hand, Stern seems like they set a budget first, like we can spend this amount of money and no more. And we want to make the best machine we can make up to that point and no further. And I think that really speaks to the market segment and their vision, because Jersey Jack, they make the best machine they can make, then do a bill of materials and say, well, how much did that cost? Okay, that's what we're going to sell it for. If it was a $10,000 game, we're going to sell it for $10,000. That's just what it took. If it was a $12,000 game or a $15,000 game, then that's what it is. They have no problem putting all the bells and whistles into it, making really deep games that have like one of the last games they made, Godfather. One of the big selling points was it had 27 different ball paths. So there's so many diverters in there that even though really there's only, say, 7 to 10 shots, every shot has at least one diverter, if not 2, or maybe a double or a triple diverter that it could send the ball in 2 or 3 different paths. You look at their animations, and they're phenomenal. You have animated text with, each letter is animated. There's little sparklies in there and all kinds of stuff. They just really put the kitchen sink into, like, there's this old saying, everything but the kitchen sink. Like it says, if something was really feature loaded or really loaded, you say it had everything but the kitchen sink. Jersey Jack's games have everything and the kitchen sink. They got everything in there. So that's their model. But the thing is who's their market, right? What type of people want a game that's very deep? It's very different every time you play it. Has so many different modes and ways you can play the game and different paths to success. And games can last 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe even an hour. What type of consumer wants that versus what I believe Stern's model is, which is a different model. So with Stern, they really cater towards people who are budget conscious, which for the most part means route operators, bars, commercial businesses who are trying to use these machines to make money. So it's very difficult for your standard bar or restaurant to buy a $15,000 pinball machine and justify making their money back when they only charge consumers $1 a play, and it's more than just the cost of the machine. You also have the cost of the square footage, which is, you know, the electric, the light. That's all calculated in the cost of running a business. So I mean, you got to get a lot of plays before that money comes back. Whereas if you buy a machine that's $7,000, you know, it's more. You could probably justify that a bit more. Now, the other thing that you got to think about with the Stern games is going for commercial businesses. Commercial businesses don't want you sitting there and playing their game for an hour for $1, right? That's $1 an hour. That's not making money, right? So they want their game time to last 2 to 5 minutes, right? So, and in that 2 to 5 minutes, they want an extreme feeling of, I got to play this game again, right? Something that's just sucking you in, sucking you back to play it again and put another $1 in, right? So they're looking for fast pace, they're looking for excitement, they're looking for adrenaline, something that just grabs you. That's the type of games that segment of the audience wants. And as you can see, that's the type of game that Stern is catering towards and they're trying to make, and so that people can play. But the thing is they have this red line in the sand. We're going to sell a pro model. It's not going to be more than $7,000. And that's the expectation of the market right now. So if their license costs more, you know, they get a license like whether it's Star Wars or like say if they got Harry Potter or something like that. Maybe that license was really expensive. Well, then that means there's less things they can put in the game and still make that $7,000 price point. Whereas Jersey Jack, they would just raise the price, right? Because they're not selling to the same market segment. So I guess what I'm saying is when you compare Stern against Jersey Jack, is not really a fair comparison because they have two different business models and they're going after two different segments of the market. So the segment of the market that Stern's going after is really, I mean, they do have home play games, and that's why they make the LEs and the more expensive ones is for people who want them in their homes, so they're willing to put that money in. But really, they're after route operators, bars, restaurants, people who want shorter playing games. They can make some money off of them. They're fun. They're exciting. They have very current themes. Some people, things that the normal non-pinball people are familiar with. That's Stern's segment. That's what they're trying to sell to. That's their angle. Jersey Jack, on the other hand, I believe, this is all my opinion, right, is going after a totally different market segment. If you're going to put a Jersey Jack game in a bar or arcade, that's cool. But understand that game plays long, right? You know, in general. Even I think like Dialed In, which is I think one of their more games that appeals to competitive players, it's still, you know, it's still can be a longer game, right? We were just at Chicago Expo, and I was watching. My booth was right next to the Jersey Jack booth, and we were watching the lines at Elton John, and there would be 7 people in line, and it would take an hour. Everybody was averaging 10-minute games or longer. And I was like, well, there's no way I can leave my booth. I can't leave my booth and get in that line because I just can't be away from my booth that long. So, and the game looks great. Great. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad game. It's just a different mindset and a different type of game. It's a game that it's going to play longer. It's going to have more of a narrative build to it, maybe. It's going to have all the bells and whistles. There's fabulous light shows. The way they do RGB lighting's phenomenal. You know, thousands of lights on the play field. You know, counting all those ones up and down the sidebar. There's just so much. The modes are deep. The animations are excellent. You know, the fact that they have a camera pointed at you, and like if you play Guns N' Roses, there's a camera pointed at you, and during certain times when they're showing the band playing, they put you in there with the band, like you're kind of like melted in with the animation of the band playing, you know, stuff like that. And they've been doing that kind of stuff for multiple games now, right? The camera started with dialed in, where they were taking pictures of the people, and they use it to detect. Like if you walk by the machine, the camera sees you, it'll call out to you. You know what I mean? They're just doing so much extra and so much more. But that costs money to put all that extra stuff in there. So they're not going after that same audience as Stern. They're not, I mean, they're, like I said in the beginning, they're competing for dollars, but it's not really the same dollars. I think it's kind of an unfair comparison to compare those two. I really like both of them. I really like the new Elton John. I own a lot of Stern games. Some of the Jersey Jack games I'd love to own. I just don't have the money. But one of these days is what I always say. But that's my take on Jersey Jack versus Stern. I think if you look at a lot of the other manufacturers, they fall somewhere in that mix, whether it's Haggis or Spooky or American, and they kind of fall. I know Stern and JGP are the two extremes, and then the other ones kind of fall in there. That's my opinion on Stern versus Jersey Jack.